The Arcturian hegemony stood as the most feared power in their section of the galaxy over 3 centuries. They had brought 17 star systems under their control. Their method never change: observe, evaluate, and conquer. Their tall 6-limbed forms and advanced technology made resistance futile for most species. They encountered Fleet Commander to stood on the bridge of the dominant Will, the flagship of the Arcturian fleet. His blue-scaled skin reflected the light of the command console as he reviewed the reports from the scout ships that had been watching Earth for the past 5 years. This species seems particularly primitive, he noted to his second in command. Their weapons still rely on chemical propellants and nuclear fission. They waste resources fighting among themselves over arbitrary territorial lines. True, Commander, his officer replied. Their most advanced fighters can barely reach their own orbital satellites. Their ground forces still use wheeled vehicles and explosive projectiles. Tuck Flick, his third eye membrane, in what passed for amusement among his kind, and yet they broadcast all their entertainment and communications into space as if inviting conquest. They practically announced their vulnerabilities to the cosmos. The commander made his decision quickly. Prepare for first contact. Standard diplomatic approach. We'll evaluate their resources in person before beginning the integration process. As the massive Arcturian vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, Earth's deep space monitoring stations detected its presence. The ship was enormous, nearly 2 km in length, with a distinctive crescent shape that housed weapons capable of reducing cities to ash in seconds in a secure underground facility. Beneath the Swiss Alps, not far from Geneva, General Kim paced the floor of the United Earth Defense Council chamber. Representatives from every major military power on the planet stood around a circular table, their faces illuminated by the holographic display of the approaching alien vessel. They're coming exactly as we predicted, General Kim said. Right on schedule, Admiral Park nodded. The decoy technologies worked, they think. We're still using F-35s and Abrams tanks as the core of our military. What about our orbital defenses? Asked Colonel Lee. Still hidden, confirmed General Kim. The Sal Shield network remains in standby mode, completely masked by our quantum displacement technology. The aliens have no idea we can detect their scanning attempts for almost 50 years. Since the Proxima Centauri signals had been decoded in 2078, humanity had known they weren't alone. The messages contained enough information about the Arcturian hegemony to understand the threat they posed. World leaders had made an unprecedented decision: prepare in secret for the inevitable contact. The world's public military parades still showcase technology that was in reality decades behind what actually existed. Nations maintained the appearance of rivalry and technological stagnation. Meanwhile, deep underground and beneath the oceans, humanity built its true defenses. The charade has worked perfectly, said Admiral Park, studying the alien ship's approach vector. Their scans show exactly what we want them to see: a divided planet with minimal space presence and outdated military capabilities. General Kim pulled up another display showing green dots representing Earth's hidden defense installations. All Phase 3 facilities are ready. The lunar bases report full operational status, and the Jupiter outpost posts are on standby. The Arcturian vessel took position in Earth's orbit, its massive shadow falling over Europe as it hovered above Geneva. Smaller craft deployed from its hull, descending toward the United Nations headquarters. Inside his private office, Secretary General Yun watched the ship's approach. Unlike most of humanity, who were experiencing their first alien contact with a mixture of fear and awe, he felt a grim satisfaction. The plan was working. His secure phone rang. Yes, sir. Defense Council reports all systems are green, said a voice. Operation False Flag is proceeding as planned. The visitor will land in 12 minutes. Very good, Yum replied. And our special guest ready to play her part. She's been fully briefed. The Secretary General ended the call and straightened his tie. In the mirror, he caught his own reflection and the hint of a smile. Humanity had spent generations fighting itself, perfecting the art of war. Now that expertise would serve a greater purpose. When Fleet Commander Tuck stepped from his shuttle onto Earth's soil, he was greeted by a delegation of Earth's apparent leaders. They were smaller than he had expected, soft-looking creatures, with only 2 arms and eyes that didn't properly track movement. "Welcome to Earth," said Secretary General Yun, with a practiced look of awe and slight fear. "We are honored by your presence." Talk didn't bother with pleasantries. "I am Fleet Commander Tech of the Arcturian Emini. Your world has been noticed by our civilization. We come to offer you the opportunity to join our collective." The humans exchanged nervous glances, exactly as expected. Tech had seen this reaction on 17 other worlds. The fear, the uncertainty, the desperate hope that submission might mean survival. "Of course," Yum said with appropriate deference, "we would be honored to discuss terms. Perhaps you would join us inside for discussions." As Tuck followed the humans into the Grand United Nations building, his personal scanner analyzed everything. The building materials were primitive, mostly concrete and steel. The security forces carry projectile weapons that couldn't even penetrate Arcturian skin. Even their communication devices used easily intercepted radio waves. What Tuck couldn't detect were the quantum-encoded signals passing between Special Agent Min in the security detail and the defense network. Nor could he see the advanced scanning technology hidden in the seemingly decorative wall panels, mapping every aspect of Erewhon biology in a secure room beneath the New Andes mountains. Darhan watched the data flow in. "We're getting everything," she told her team. "Cellular structure, energy readings, technological signatures. Their shielding technology is impressive but predictable." Back in Geneva, Tuck sat across from Earth's leaders at a large table. "Your planet has resources we require," he said bluntly. "Your people have skills that can be useful. The hegemony offers protection in exchange for your service." "Protection?" asked Yum innocently. "From what dangers?" Tuck's mouthpart shifted in what passed for a smile. "The universe is full of threats. Without our protection, your species would be vulnerable. Other civilizations are not as generous as we are." General Kim, playing the role of a simple military advisor, asked, "And if we decline this generous offer, that would be unfortunate." Tux said, "We would be forced to demonstrate why 17 other systems chose cooperation." The Earth representatives exchanged worried looks that masked their internal satisfaction. Every word, every threat was being recorded and analyzed. The Erewhon arrogance was providing exactly the intelligence they needed. "We would need time," Yum said. "Thing concern our people are not united. We would need to explain this to our various nations." Tuck considered this. His scans showed no significant defensive capabilities that could threaten his ship. These were barely space capable, still using chemical rockets and primitive satellites. Their request for time was merely the desperate plea of the weak. "You have 72 Earth hours to prepare your people," he said magnanimously. "Then we will begin integration." As the Arcturian delegation returned to their ship, military leaders around the world received the same message. Phase 4 authorized 72-hour countdown initiated. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, mammoth doors slid open on the ocean floor as dormant defense platforms began powering up, in the asteroid belt mining operations transformed into weapon stations on the far side of the moon. 3,000 micro satellites prepared for deployment. The trap was set, and the Arcturians had walked right into it. 24 hours after the first meeting, Commander Tuck summoned Earth's leaders back to the landing site near the United Nations building. This time, he did not bother leaving his ship. Instead, the humans were escorted into a large chamber within the Arcturian vessel, where they stood like students before a stern teacher. The room was purposely designed to intimidate. The ceiling towered 15 m high. The lighting cast harsh shadows across alien technology that pulsed with energy. 6 armed Arcturian guards stood at attention, their weapons visibly powered and ready. T sat on an elevator platform, looking down at the human delegation. Secretary General Yun, General Kim, and 5 other world leaders maintained carefully neutral expressions as the alien commander activated a holographic display. "These are our terms," Talk announced without preamble. A hologram showed Earth with overlay maps highlighting specific regions rich in minerals, water, and biological resources. "The Arcturian hegemony claims protective status over for your world," he continued. "In exchange for our technology and defense, Earth will provide annual tribute of 40% of all planetary Resources. The humans exchanged glances as talk continued listing. Demand. Your people will serve as labor forces in our mining operations throughout this sector. We find human physiology well suited to certain tasks. Our people prefer not to perform. The hologram shifted to show images of humans working in what appeared to be mining facilities on barren worlds. The conditions were clearly harsh. The workers thin and exhausted. Those who cooperate will receive adequate nutrition and housing. Those who excel may earn additional privileges. General Kim stepped forward slightly. And if we refuse these terms, Tuck's third eye membrane flickered in what the humans now recognized as amusement. With a gesture, the hologram changed to show Earth again. Red targeting markers appeared over major cities: New York, Tokyo, London, Beijing, Mumbai. Resistance would be unfortunate, T said coldly. Our ships carry weapons capable of reducing your largest cities to ash in minutes. We prefer cooperation, but we are prepared for alternatives. To demonstrate, he pressed a control on his chair. The hologram showed live footage of a small uninhabited island in the Pacific. The beam of light flashed from the Erewhon ship in orbit. The island vanished in a blinding explosion, leaving nothing but boiling seawater that was on 10th the power of our main weapons. Tuck noted. You understand your position now, Secretary. General Yun stepped forward, his head slightly bowed in apparent submission. We understand completely, Commander, but I must ask for time to prepare our people. As I mentioned before, Earth is divided into many nations. We need to explain these terms to various leaders and prepare our populations. How much time? T asked impatiently. 72 hours. Yum replied. 3 Earth days. Just enough time to broadcast the message globally and begin organizing the resource collection you require. Tuck considered this. His intelligence officers had confirmed that Earth possessed no weapons that could threaten his ship. Their most advanced missiles could be intercepted long before reaching orbit. Their primitive nuclear weapons would be useless against Arcturian shields. Very well, he agreed. Finally, you have 72 hours. When I return, I expect to see your world prepared to begin its service to the Emini. As the human delegation was escorted back to Earth, Tuck's second in command approached him. Commander, our sensors have detected increased activity at several military installations. The humans appear to be moving equipment and personnel to remote locations. Tuck dismissed the concern with a wave. Let them hide their toys. It makes no difference. Their most advanced weapons are several centuries behind our technology. Still, his officer persisted. Should we not investigate these movements? Send additional scout ships if you wish, T said, but it is wasted effort. I have seen this behavior on 7 worlds before this one. They always make futile preparations before accepting reality. Back on Earth, in the secure underground command center beneath the Alves, the human delegation dropped their submissive act. The moment they were alone, the arrogant fool took the bait completely. General Kim said, removing his jacket. He didn't even bother scanning us for communication devices. Secretary General Yun noted the quantum transmitter recorded everything, all his threats, the weapons demonstration, everything. Did you see their shield configurations when they fired on the test island? Admiral Park asked excitedly. The energy pattern matches exactly what our simulations predicted. Their defensive technology hasn't evolved in over a century. In a nearby room, Darahan was already analyzing the biological samples collected during the visit to the alien ship. Her team had managed to place microscopic collection devices on the floor that gathered skin cells and other biological material from the Arcturians. Their cellular structure is fascinating, she reported, highly resilient to radiation, but with surprising vulnerability to certain frequencies of ultrasonic waves. This could be useful. General Kim activated the main command display, showing a global map with hundreds of green dots representing hidden military installations. All defense stations report ready status. The lunar bases have completed final preparations. Deep space platforms are online, and the Phantom Fleet fully operational. The ships are maintaining quantum stealth protocols. The Arcturians have no idea they exist in orbit. Scout Officer G of the Arcturian Hijman directed his small vessel toward an area of increased human activity in the remote mountains of what humans called Colorado, his sensors detected unusual energy readings, but the source appeared to be deep underground. Command, I'm detecting some form of energy signature. He reported, but it's likely just their primitive nuclear power sources. The radiation shielding is consistent with their technology level. What Jake couldn't detect was the advanced quantum displacement field hiding the true nature of the facility. What appeared to his sensors as a simple underground bunker was actually one of Earth's most advanced military research centers, extending 10 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains inside Devarku. Calibrated the final adjustments on the planetary defense grid. Grid nodes 1 through 500 are green. She reported the remaining nodes will be online within 48 hours. In another section of the facility, Colonel Min supervised the loading of microscopic combat drones into deployment vessels. These drones, no larger than dust particles, could infiltrate alien technology and disable it from within. Drone battalions, Alpha through Echo, already, he confirmed, just waiting for deployment orders across the planet. Similar preparations continued in deep ocean trenches. Enormous hangar doors opened to release vessels that had remained hidden for decades in the Amazon rainforest. What appeared to be dense jungle transformed as camouflage fields, deactivated, revealing launch platforms for orbital defense systems. Commander Talk, meanwhile, celebrated his easy conquest. Add another resource-rich world to our collection, he told his officers. These humans are softer than most species we encounter. They didn't even attempt to resist. His intelligence officer frowned slightly. Commander, there's something unusual about their behavior. Most species show more fear, more panic. These humans seem almost calculated in their responses. That's because they still believe they have hope, replied dismissively. Once we begin the resource extraction and labor reassignments, they'll understand their place. As the Arcturian ship maintained its position over Geneva, its sensors continued to scan Earth's surface. They detected military vehicles moving, communication signals increasing, and human aircraft taking off and landing at higher rates than normal, but nothing in their observations suggested a serious threat. The trap was nearly ready. In just 48 more hours, humanity would reveal its true strength, and the Arcturian hegemony would face something they had never encountered before, a prey that had been waiting for the predator all along. The 72-hour deadline arrived on the bridge of the Dominant. Will Commander Tuck prepared to receive Earth's formal surrender. His crew had spent the time cataloging Earth's resources and planning extraction routes. The massive ship's hold was already being converted into processing centers, where humans would be sorted for labor assignments. Open communication with their leaders. Tack ordered, settling into his command chair. The main view screen activated, showing not the meeting room where they had previously gathered, but what appeared to be a formal office. Behind a wooden desk sat a woman Tech had not seen before. I am President Sumnu of the United Earth Government, she said calmly. I speak for all humanity. Tuck's third eye blinked in confusion. Where is Secretary General Yun? He was designated as your speaking representative. Secretary General Yun was merely one of our diplomatic corps, President Sumnu replied. For matters of planetary security, I hold final authority. This was unexpected, but Tuck saw no reason for concern. It was common for prey species to shuffle their leadership before capitulation, often sacrificing previous leaders to curry favor with the enemy. Very well, he said impatiently. Have you prepared your people to begin resource collection? Our processing ships will arrive within 6 hours. President Sunnu's expression remained calm. We've reviewed your proposal and prepared our response. She pressed a button on her desk. Perhaps you should look outside your viewport. Commander Tuck turned to his sensor officer, who suddenly shouted in alarm. Commander, multiple objects deploying from Earth's moon. The tactical display showed thousands of small objects emerging from the lunar surface, spreading out to form a network around Earth. Before T could respond, his ship sensors detected massive energy surges from Earth's oceans across the planet's surface. The waters churned as enormous platforms rose from the depths. These weren't the primitive oil drilling platforms the Arcturians had observed before. These were advanced weapons platforms, each bearing technology that matched or exceeded the humans' own capabilities. What is happening? T demanded, rising from his chair. Scan those platforms. I can't get clear readings, his science officer replied frantically. They're protected by some kind of energy field our sensors can't penetrate on the view screen, President Sunwoo continued. Speaking her voice, steady. Humanity has lived in the shadow of our own self-destruction for centuries. We've pointed nuclear weapons at ourselves for generations, always one button away from extinction. That experience taught us caution around major cities across the planet. Shimmering domes of energy appeared, quantum displacement fields that could redirect any attack into another dimension. The weapons you southeast now represent merely 5% of our defensive capability, President Sunwoo said. We've known about your enemy for decades. The Proxima Centaurus civilization warned us before you conquered them. T felt a cold sensation in his secondary heart. The Proxima system had been conquered 30 Earth years ago. There should have been no way for these humans to have received warnings. Impossible, he whispered. Your species barely has the technology to reach your own moon. President Sunwoo allowed herself a small smile. That's what we wanted you to believe, Commander. Everything you've seen of our military and technology has been carefully staged for observers like you. The fighter jets, the aircraft carriers, the missiles, all of it outdated technology we maintain specifically to hide our true capabilities on the dominant wills. Bridge alarms blared as sensors detected new threats from hidden bases in Earth's asteroid belt. Larger vessels were emerging, real warships, not the primitive spacecraft the Arcturians had observed before. Commander, the tactical officer shouted, I'm detecting antimatter signatures from those vessels. They're powered by containment technology that matches our own. President Sunwoo continued her explanation. When we detected your scout ships 5 years ago, we accelerated our final preparations. We thank you for your patience in giving us the 72 hours it allowed us to bring our full defense. Grid Online Tuck struggled to comprehend what was happening in all the IM's history of conquest. No species had ever concealed their true technological level so successfully. The implications were staggering. If you were capable of this, he said slowly, why did you not reveal your strength immediately? Why the deception? We needed to understand your intentions completely. President Sun replied, we needed to hear your threats directly to understand what kind of civilization the Hemini truly is. Now we know in low Earth orbit the 3,000 micro satellites formed a complete network. Each one was small, but together they created a defense grid capable of intercepting any weapon the Arcturians might deploy from hidden bases beneath Antarctica. Massive energy cannons emerged from the ice, pointing skyward. In the Sahara Desert, what had appeared to be endless sand dunes transformed as camouflage fields, deactivated, revealing launch platforms for space-based interceptors on the dominant Will Tucks. Officers frantically reported new threats appearing across the solar system, hidden bases on Mars, automated defense platforms in the asteroid belt, and energy signatures suggesting human presence as far out as the moons of Jupiter. This is impossible, muttered. Your species should be centuries away from this level of technology. We are quick learners, President Sunwoo replied, and highly motivated. The threat of our own extinction drove us to develop weapons that could end our civilization. The threat of alien invasion drove us to perfect them. From his command chair, T assessed the situation with growing horror. His single warship, while powerful, was now surrounded by weapons platforms that matched or exceeded its capabilities. The easy conquest he had planned was now impossible. What are your terms? He asked, his voice much less confident than before. President Sunwoo's expression hardened. You came to our world with demands for submission and threats of destruction. You plan to reduce us to slaves and strip our planet of resources. Do you truly believe we would now offer you terms? Tech felt fear for the first time in his long military career. You cannot expect to defeat the entire hegemony. We have thousands of warships, hundreds of conquered worlds. This is just one ship. We are well aware of your fleet strength, President Sunwoo replied. We have been monitoring your communications and mapping your territory for years. We know the location of every major Arcturian world, every fleet position, every supply line. She leaned forward slightly. But we are not monsters, Commander. Unlike you, we don't believe in unprovoked attacks or threats of orbital bombardment. We will allow your ship to leave our system intact with a message for your leaders on the bridge of the Dominant. While Tuck's officers waited anxiously for his response, to retreat would be unprecedented in any history. No conquest mission had ever failed so completely. What message, Tak? Asked. Finally, Earth and the entire Sol system are now declared a sovereign zone, President Sunu stated firmly. Any future Arcturian vessels entering our space without explicit permission will be considered hostile acts of war. We are prepared to defend not just our planet, but any world threatened by your expansion. She paused to let her words sink in. You have 1 hour to depart. After that, we cannot guarantee your safety. As the communication ended, to stared at the blank screen around him. His officers awaited orders, their confidence shattered by the revelation of humanity's true power. Prepare the ship for departure, he said quietly. Send a priority message to the IME Council. The situation here is not as we expected. As the Dominant will begin powering its engine, sensors around Earth continued tracking its every move in the command center beneath the Swiss Alvis. Military leaders watched the alien vessel with weapons locked on target. Do you think they'll return with a larger fleet? General Kim asked. President Sunu, who had delivered her message from this secure location rather than her actual office, shook her head. Not immediately. They'll need time to assess what happened here, time to realize that their entire approach to expansion needs to be reconsidered. She watched the alien ship growing smaller on the display as it moved away from her. Earth today marks a new chapter in human history, not just first contact, but first resistance. The trap had not just been sprung, it had worked perfectly. Humanity had revealed enough of its strength to deter an invasion, while still keeping many of its most advanced weapons secret. The shadow game would continue, but the rules had changed forever. Commander Tech vessel halted its retreat at the edge of Earth's solar system. For 3 hours, the bridge crew had remained silent, processing their humiliation. The Arcturian hegemony had never retreated before. In 17 conquests, they had always been the superior force. To paced the command deck, his pride wounded, but his tactical mind racing. This changes nothing, he announced suddenly. The humans have revealed their deception, but one planet, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against the combined might of the hegemony. His officers exchanged uncertain glances. The sensor readings from Earth had shown technology that matched or exceeded their own in several key areas. His second in command ventured. Perhaps we should report back to the Council before taking further action. Tuck's third eye narrowed. And admit defeat? No, the humans surprised us. Once it will not happen again. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to Earth. On Earth, the defense network immediately detected the incoming transmission in the Alpine Command Center. President Sunu had been consulting with her military advisors about next steps when the alert came through. The Arcturian vessel is hailing us, reported Admiral Park. They've stopped at the orbit of Neptune. Put them through, Sunu ordered, straightening her uniform. Commander Tuck's image appeared on the main screen. His posture was different now, no longer relaxed and condescending, but rigid with controlled fury. President Sunu, he began, your deception has been noted. However, you must understand that what you have seen is merely one ship of the Arcturian fleet. Even now I could summon reinforcements that would overwhelm even your impressive defenses. President Sunwoo maintained a neutral expression. We've been monitoring your transmissions, Commander. We know you haven't contacted your super interiors. Yet you're bluffing. Tuck's facial membranes tightened, the Arcturian equivalent of a scowl. This is your final opportunity. Accept protectorate status under more generous terms, or face the consequences of your defiance. The hegemony has never failed to conquer a target world. Admiral Park leaned close to President Sunu. He's desperate, trying to salvage his mission. President Sunwood nodded slightly. Commander Tak, we have already demonstrated a fraction of our defensive capabilities. Perhaps you need further evidence that threats are not in your best interest. She gestured to General Kim, who spoke into his communication device. Authorize operation. Clear sky, Captain. Hannah, you are go for demonstration in Earth orbit. A sleek vessel detached from an orbital defense station, unlike the bulky armored design Of Arcturian warships, this human craft was elegant and stir LED barely a quarter the size of the dominant, while its hull gleamed with a material that seemed to absorb and reflect light. Simultaneously, on the Arcturian bridge tech, observed the approaching ship with dismissive amusement. They send one tiny vessel, scan it. His sensor officer complied. Single ship, minimal weapon. Signature: no threat to our vessel, commander. Their whole material is unusual, some form of composite we have encountered before, but nothing that could withstand our primary weapons, they being theatrical, Tuck said with renewed confidence, trying to intimidate us with the display on the bridge of the US. Thermop Captain Hannah sat calmly in the command chair. Unlike the crowded bridges of Arcturian vessels, her ship operated with a crew of only 12 each, specialist monitoring advanced systems that required minimal oversight. Phase drive charged to 100%, reported her navigation officer. Coordinates locked weapon system primed, added her tactical officer. Target parameters set. Captain Hannah nodded. Begin approach sequence. Let them track us normally. The thermopad accelerated toward the Arcturian vessel, appearing on their sensors as moving quickly but conventionally through space. Nothing in its approach suggested capabilities beyond what the Arcturians would expect from an advanced, but still inferior civilization on the dominant. Will T watched with growing confidence. They're approaching at sublight speed. No unusual energy readings. Perhaps their earlier display was all they could muster. They'll enter our weapons range in 30 seconds, his tactical officer reported. Prepare to fire a warning shot. TAC ordered. Show them the futility of this gesture, but before the Arcturians could act, something impossible happened. The human vessel simply vanished from their sensors. Where did they go? TAC demanded, his voice rising. Find them. His crew frantically searched all sensor bands, but the ship had completely disappeared. Not cloak, not hidden, gone. Then alarms blared across the bridge. Internal sensors detecting an object, shouted the security officer. Something has appeared inside our shield perimeter. The thermopila had reappeared barely 100 meters from the hull of the dominant, while hovering just outside a viewport where T could clearly see it. The human vessel had somehow bypassed the Ariwan shields completely, a technology thought impossible by every spacefaring race. The Hemony had encountered a communication channel opened automatically. Captain Hannah's face appeared on the Arcturian view screen. This is Captain Hannah of the United Earth ship Thermop, she said calmly. This is a demonstration. We could have materialized inside your command center. T stared in disbelief. The implications were staggering. If human ships could bypass shields and appear anywhere, no Arcturian vessel or world would be safe. How did you do this? He asked, his arrogance forgotten. Phase shift technology, Captain Hannah replied matter-of-factly. Your shields exist in normal spacetime. We temporarily shifted into an adjacent dimensional plane before reappearing to us. Your shields might as well not exist. Tuck's tactical officer whispered urgently, Commander, if they can do this, they could place weapons directly inside our ship. We have no defense against such technology. Captain Hannah continued, we have one more demonstration. Commander, please direct your sensors toward Jupiter's third moon. The Arcturian sensor officer quickly focused their long-range scanners on the specified target. Jupiter's third moon was a small uninhabited rock, roughly 20 km in diameter. What about it? Asked. Just watch, Captain Hannah replied. The Thermop turned slightly, orienting itself away from the Arcturian vessel. A narrow aperture opened on its hull, revealing what appeared to be a simple focusing lens. There was no visible beam, no massive energy buildup that the Arcturians could detect, but on their sensors something impossible happened. The entire moon simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a solid celestial body orbiting the gas giant. The next it was gone, not destroyed, not shattered into pieces, but completely converted to energy in a controlled reaction that defied Arcturian understanding of physics. The energy release was enormous, but somehow contained, not radiating outward destructively, but seemingly channeled somewhere else. The Ariwan sensors struggled to comprehend what they were detecting. By the first egg whispered Tuck's science officer. "They've somehow converted matter directly to energy, with perfect efficiency. That should be impossible." Captain Hana's expression remained calm. "That moon was approximately 1/8 the mass of your flagship, Commander Talk. We currently have 40 weapons platforms with similar capabilities targeted on your vessel. The bridge of the Dominant will fall completely silent. Every crew member understood the implications. Their most powerful weapons could devastate a planet's surface. But this human technology could make matter simply cease to exist. The energy from the moon has been safely channeled to our collection grid." Captain Hana continued, "We don't believe in wasting resources. That single demonstration will power Earth's defense grid for approximately 3 years." Tuck sank slowly back into his command chair. In all his years of service to the Emini, he had never encountered a species with such advanced technology. The humans hadn't just matched Erewhon capabilities, they had surpassed them in ways that seemed impossible. "Why reveal this now?" he asked finally. "If you possessed such power, why maintain the charade at all?" "Because we are not conquerors, Commander." Captain Hana replied, "We developed these technologies for defense, not aggression. We revealed only what was necessary to ensure you understood our position." She paused, letting her words sink in. "My ship will now return to Earth. You have a decision to make, Commander Talk. You can return to your Hemini and report honestly what you've witnessed here, or you can attempt further hostilities and face the consequences." With that, the Thermop A's engines glowed briefly, then it vanished again, reappearing instantly near Earth orbit. A journey that should have taken hours, even at the fastest conventional speeds on the bridge of the Dominant. Will Commander T sat in stunned silence. His crew awaited orders, but for the first time in his career, he had none to give. The hegemony's entire understanding of what was possible in warfare had just been shattered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. "Set course for aim in space," he said. Finally, maximum speed as the Arcturian vessel turned and accelerated away from the Sol system. Earth's defense network tracked its departure in the Alpine Command Center. President Sunwoo watched the tactical display with Admiral Park and General Kim. "Do you think they've learned their lesson?" the Admiral asked. President Sunwoo's expression was thoughtful. "They've learned that we're not the easy conquest they expected, but species don't abandon their nature overnight. The Arcturians have been conquerors for centuries. This is just the beginning of a much longer game." The Erewhon High Council chamber fell silent as Commander Tuck finished his report. 17 high-ranking Arcturians sat around a crescent-shaped table, their expressions ranging from disbelief to anger. A chamber normally filled with confident discussions of conquest and resource allocation now held only uncertainty. "This recording will confirm everything I've reported," Tu said, activating a holographic display. The council watched as the human ship Thermop disappeared and reappeared inside their flagship shields, then witnessed the complete conversion of Jupiter's moon into energy. High Counselor Mex, the oldest and most respected member of the Hijon's leadership, leaned forward. "In all our history, we have never encountered such technology. These humans hide their true capabilities behind a primitive facade. We should assemble the Grand Fleet immediately," said Counselor Rek, the most hawkish of the group. "If we strike with overwhelming force and risk having our entire fleet converted to energy," interrupted Counselor Le, head of scientific research. "Did you not witness what their weapons can do? One small ship erased a moon from existence. They have 47 such platforms forms, and those are just the ones they revealed to us." The debate raged for hours. Some counselors argued for immediate military action, others for diplomatic outreach, and still others for quarantining the entire Sol system and pretending humans didn't exist. Finally, High Counselor Mech raised his hand for silence. "For 3 centuries, the Hemi has expanded based on our technological superiority. That advantage no longer exists. For the first time, we have encountered a species that can destroy us more easily than we can destroy them." His words hung heavy in the air. The concept was almost impossible for many to accept. "We will send diplomatic info," Mech declared finally. "We will acknowledge Earth as a sovereign power, and we will reassess our expansion policies immediately." News traveled quickly through the galaxy's communication network. Species that had feared the Erewhon hegemony for generations suddenly learned of its unexpected withdrawal from Earth. intercepted communications, revealed the reason the seemingly primitive humans possessed military technology generations ahead of other civilizations. On the desert world of Proxima Centauri, the reptilian centurions who had been under Arcturian rule for 30 years gathered in underground chambers to discuss this revelation. The humans stood against the hegemony, and one whispered elder so to the assembled resistance leaders, "Perhaps the time has come to reconsider our position." Similar conversations occurred on dozens of world species that had lived in fear. Now saw a possibility for change. Some reached out cautiously to Earth through secret channels, others began planning rebellions against their Arcturian overseers. 3 months after the encounter with Commander Tech's ship, a historic Worlds, the space station's central chamber had been redesigned for the occasion. A circular table accommodated all delegates equally, with no position of prominence. Earth was represented by President Sunu and a small delegation of military and diplomatic advisors. The Arcturian representative Ambassador Pack entered last. The room fell silent as the former conqueror took his place at the table. His posture was stiff, his expression carefully neutral. "Welcome to the Sol system," President Sunu began. "We gather today to establish a new